Bleav in Chargers, a playoff edition. Yes, the postseason has arrived. Lorenzo Neal celebrating by wearing a sensitive sweater. I don't know what you got going on, Lo. What's
Man,
happening today?
it's a little Charger blue in there.
Okay.
It's winter.
Right.
I'm gonna get on the road. It's like cold down here in Fresno. It's like
Okay.
40, 50 degrees. I got my
Well, there you
got my
go.
little beanie even to throw on with it. I mean,
There we go.
I'm ready. I'm ready, brother. I'm
There we
ready.
go. They the Hallmark Channel had a Chiefs Christmas movie 2 years ago. This year it was a Buffalo Bills Christmas movie. So
Yeah.
Chargers make a run here, win a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert proves to everyone that he's the superstar we all know he is. And Lorenzo Neal, I could see you like being a cast as a shop owner, like you run the
Yes.
corner store.
Yeah.
You're a quiet guy. You've got your family business, and maybe something gets a little loose outside, and here's this quiet dude that comes in,
Oh, I like it, Money. I like where you're going with this,
cleans some house.
Money. Hey, you know what? You can produce this. I think
There we
that
go.
you ought to go ahead and write it up and you send it in. I'm telling you, Money. It sounded great. You
Right.
had me at hello. You had me when you said I had the family guy, the shop next outside, and talking about me coming in there. Oh, Money. Let's do it.
Yeah, you're the nicest guy in the neighborhood. Everybody chats with you. You're always out front. You give the kids lollipops when they walk by, and then all of a sudden something goes down, and here's Lo just cleaning house on everybody, man. And they're like, damn.
Rambo, I'm Debo out there.
Exactly right. You want any of this? No. Here we go. Chargers, Patriots, our friends at FanDuel have all the odds. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites. The total is at 46.5. Pretty high. That's a pretty high total, considering what these two defenses have put out there over the course of their 17-game regular season. So, home team gets 3. 3.5, I think, is a pretty healthy spread. I think that suggests that the odds makers feel pretty good about the Patriots at home getting out with a win. But at the same time, it also suggests, hey, there's a little hook here for you, a little hook for the Chargers. If you want to take Justin Herbert, we're not just giving you a field goal. We're going to give you that extra half point if you want to get a little bit of that action. So that suggests to me that maybe they do think the Chargers have an opportunity to get out of here with the 7-2 upset. They're plus 166 on the money line. If they win, they will travel to Denver to take on the Broncos, who will be on the bye. Lo, I don't think we need to get too deep into that Denver game, considering very few players played. But the one thing I would say that I'll throw at you to build on is, I don't think there's any question they planted some seeds of doubt in the Broncos' heads, considering they played defense without 6 starters, and that offense scored 6 points for all intents and purposes. You had a pick 6, you had a strip sack on the Charger 20, that their offensive drive got -2 yards and resulted in a field goal, and you had a turnover at midfield that they got 18 yards off of and scored a field goal. So at least I feel like a message was sent like, hey, Jesse Minter still got your number, Sean Payton. There's a reason why I was 3-0 versus you coming into this one.
Yeah, Chargers said, hey, we'll let Denver be home field. We ain't going to try to beat them. Let them be home field. We'll see you, and we'll see you in a week. I think this is set up great for the Chargers, by the way. I know you look at that Denver game, you played with Trey, a backup quarterback, but, played with some offensive linemen. It's been always shuffling guys in and out. Defense didn't have all your starters. And you were in that game. The game it was a very competitive game. Yes, the offense was stagnant on the Chargers, but you're talking about the defense played. They matched the intensity. It was a very, very competitive game, and a game that, wasn't one-sided. Yeah, Denver had a player or two here, but it does not send chills up your spine if you're looking at saying, hey, Denver's the number 1 seed. They're going to dominate. I don't think there's a dominant team. In my opinion, in the AFC, there is not a dominant team that you can say, God, I'll stand on that hill that they're winning the Super Bowl or they're coming out of the AFC.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be surprised if all 3 wildcard teams, the Texans, the Bills, and the Chargers won. And I don't think anybody would be surprised if all 3 wildcard teams lost. And the Steelers knocked off the Texans, who are white hot, and the Jags, who are probably the hottest team going into the postseason, beat Josh Allen and the Bills. And if the upstart Patriots, who won 14 games, were able to knock out the Chargers, I think any of that would be surprising. It could go either way. You set it low. It is wide open. But I do think the Chargers looked at it as, once the Texans, and obviously they made their decision before the Texans won their game, but man, it would have been interesting if the Texans lost. and the Chargers had an opportunity at that 5 seed, and with a win, could have knocked the Broncos from a number 1 seed and a bye to the 3rd seed. Would have been very interesting to see if they would have actually, because the guys were active, Khalil Mack was active, Thule was active, Dayon was active. All those got Ladd, they were all Quentin, they were all active. They just did not go into the game. The only one that really would have made a huge difference is the fact that Justin Herbert was inactive for that game. But I think to them, it's like we're on the road. We're going to be on the road likely for the run of the postseason. So let's just be our healthiest selves. And if we go to New England, great. If we go to Jacksonville, great. If we go to Pittsburgh, great. We'll figure all that out. But let's go there with Jamari Sawyer as our left tackle. Let's go there with Dayon Henley in the middle of our defense feeling 100%, with Dante Jackson feeling 100%, with Quentin, who's been dealing with some nagging injuries a little bit. Let's just kind of get these guys right, and especially Justin Herbert with the hand. And we'd rather just take on whatever opponent it is we have to face, feeling like our guys got 2 weeks off and are going into this thing feeling good.
Yeah, they're going to be feeling good. They're going to be flying around, going to a hostile environment. New England, who's, like you said, red hot, 14-2, great record this year, and they've earned the right to be the number 2 seed. But the Chargers know that they match up well against anyone in the AFC. Chargers know that their defense is a top-tier defense. They know that they have a guy, the trigger guy, in Justin Herbert. If he's on and you can protect him, he can spin the ball just as good as any quarterback in the league. They understand their special teams, everything that this team has. They got a great kicker, Dicker the kicker, had a bad game against the Texans, and maybe we're having a different conversation if he makes those 2 an extra point and a chip shot, which he very rarely ever misses that. This team very rarely could have been the number 1 seed in spite of playing bad, giving Houston a 14-point head start, and still losing by 4. And it came down to the kicker, who's been Mr. Wonderful, and unfortunately that happened. So I think that I'm excited about these playoffs. I'm excited about this Sunday because this is going to be an unbelievable matchup. And to me, I know these quarterbacks, everyone talk about it's a quarterback-driven league. I'm telling you, the team that can run the ball best wins this football game, money. Mark that down. I'm telling you, it's everyone talking about this quarterback. You have a chance for the rookie. If he can get to the edge and if he's fresh, he can Marion Hampton, he's got a chance to be the game player of this game. I'm telling you, I think the run game is going to be crucial.
Yeah, I'm hoping he's healthy. He was kind of limping around at the end of that. So I don't think he was just a rest guy. I think he was legitimately dealing with a bit of an ankle. So I'm hoping that he's good. But at the same time, I think you saw from Jared Patterson, man, I think they're okay. I think they're all right if it's parceled out between. It'll be interesting if Amarion is limited, and I don't know. I'm just basing it on, I did see him limp off the field after that touchdown and against the Texans. I am interested to see if it's going to be Hassan Haskins or if they'll keep Patterson in there, and I think that'll kind of give you an idea of the health of Amarion and whether or not he's a guy that can carry that ball 20, 25 times like they'd love to have. And look, I think that's going to be a big key to this game. I don't think there's any question. You cannot allow the Patriots to get out to that quick start like they, had those 2 busted coverages against Houston, and it's just so hard to dig out of that hole. This is a Patriots team that can really run the ball. Travion Henderson is, legit explosive. Every time he touches it, it could go 70 yards to the house. Ramondre Stevenson is a pound it between the tackles guy, and if Josh McDaniels is able to get up on the Chargers, that's not good. It's not good on offense. When their defense can get a little bit more risky and come after you and maybe start blitzing a little bit more because you got to pass as opposed to leaning on that run game. If you fall behind 14-0 like they did to the Texans, and it's not good on offense when you can just start leaning into that run game that's been incredibly effective. So I think kind of what Derwin said after that Texans game of we can't allow that to happen, man. We can't do what we did against Dallas and against Houston, where we let these offenses get off to great starts and then we settle in and shut out Dallas in the second half and hold Houston to 6 points after those 2 touchdowns. It's too hard in the playoffs when you're playing a team that's 14-3 to dig out of those kind of holes. So no doubt this is a team that's going to have to start fast. And the funny thing is about those 2 games, prior to those 2 games, they had only allowed 5 opening drive scores. prior to the Cowboys game against all of their opponents. They had only 5 out of 14 games. 5
Wow.
is what they had allowed. So hopefully we see a return to that, because that's essentially what the majority of the season had looked like. But as coach told us, you can pack a defense. When it comes to winning on the road, you better pack a defense. And I think this is a team that showed they've been able to pack a defense all season long.
They can. They know how to get after the ball. They know how to get some turnovers. I think this defense is very optimistic. They can get some turnovers. They can get this thing cranking up really fast. I always said, I'll say it to I said no more. Offense entertains, but defense wins championships. And you have a championship type of defense in this Chargers team. They can get after it. They can cover. They can run. They can tackle the ball carrier. They can create some turnovers. They create a problem for opposing teams when they can play from in front and play with some type of lead. So it's going to be crucial. If you want to stay in this game, you got to make sure offensively you protect Justin Herbert. You got to make sure you run the ball. Both teams are going to be, this is a heavyweight fight, Money. Both these two teams are going to try to establish dominance on the run game. They're both going to say, let's eat up clock and play ball control. Let's keep these offenses off the field. Let's not make mistakes. Let's make the other team make mistakes. That's what Vrabel and that team's going to say. They're going to be like, look, this Chargers team offensively, their offense is not good enough up front to keep Herbert clean. We have to create that opportunity to get them behind sticks, and now we can steal a couple drives and steal a couple possessions because we get them behind the sticks, and now Herbert has to throw the ball, and now we change field position and we steal a couple more drives. That's New England's preaching that. Still a couple more drives. Get it, win on first and second down. Put them in third and long. They can't protect the quarterback. That's going to be our advantage. But if we don't do that, then we don't have an advantage against this Charger team. Their advantage against the Chargers is to try to win and say, steal a couple more possessions because of the little leaky offensive line.
Yeah, I'll start with that, Low, offensive line, because I will say one of the things that I took away for certain from that Denver game is I just, and I don't mean to take a shot at the guy or anything like that. I think he's just been banged up all season. I would start Trevor Penning at right guard. That's a really good Denver front. And I said to DJ after the game, I said, you notice guy's name that we never mentioned? Trevor Penning. And that's good. When you're an offensive lineman and you never mention a guy's name, that's good. He got beat once, on a bull rush by Zach Allen. But outside of that, I just think Maye has not been healthy this year. He's been in and out of the lineup for just myriad reasons, whether it's a concussion here or a hand there or a foot here. And and as much as I think the big thing here is one of our favorite players, Tucker Fisk is going to be back. So now, that's kind of the role that Trevor was filling, is that sixth offensive lineman. Well, now you got Tucker back, and he is very good in that move tight end role as that extra offensive lineman. He's, guy's still 270 pounds. I know he's not 320 like Trevor is, but I'd feel better about having Penning at that right guard spot. And I think Bobby Hart played okay at right tackle. I know he was a mess at left tackle against the Texans, and he got pulled in favor of Deculus. But I think if Jamari's healthy, and that to me is a huge part of this game. Let's hope Jamari got those 2 weeks with that hamstring. He's a left tackle. That's his spot. He's good at it. He's not great at, he's not really a road grader in the run game, but he can pass protect. And the deal, Low. Like, the only thing you can't be on the offensive line is terrible.
Right.
You can be average. You can be slightly below average. You can't be terrible, because then they're going to pick on you, and they're going to keep coming at that one spot. And so I think with Penning and Zion, next to Bozeman, you can help Bozeman out a little bit with those two guys. And then I think Hart and Sawyer is kind of what I'm looking at with the return of Tucker Fisk out there on damn near every snap. And I think that's
so you'd have the big man down. You wouldn't even suit him up.
I would suit him up if you want to go jumbo, and then I would drop him in and say, hey, you know what, Maye, you're dinged up. Let's suit you up, and we're going to have you play right guard if we want Trevor to be that. If we want to go jumbo, because Trevor's so much more athletic than anybody else. So I would want to keep that option open. Like, hey, you know what, we might get you 10 snaps where you're going to be our right guard. Trevor's going to get out there as the sixth offensive lineman. And that way you kind of let him know he's part of the game plan. We're not moving on from him. It just feels like Trevor would, and I think that's going to be a much better solution for this team.
And you know what? You might be right. And here's the even though Becton, athletically, and you see how big he is, and he's man, you've seen what he can do when he's well and when he wants to play. But I've watched games and like not taking a shot either, but just watching it where you see Khalil Mack and all the guys talking to him like, hey, we need you, and you do that.
Yeah.
You're in a football game. You're in a football game and thinking about being in the playoffs or just in a regular, and you're a player and you got to go pep someone up and try to get in their head mentally to try to get them to go play. I got to do my job. I that's just not good for the psyche of the team, for the camaraderie of the team, for the offense, when guys are looking, where's he at? What's going on? And it's unfortunate because it does have guys looking and thinking. So if I know a guy, Penny, can go in there and do a job, and I know that I don't got to pep talk him. I know that guys don't got to gather around him and coddle him and do those things. You're a lot better off because you got to think about your job. You got to think about the man in front of you that's trying to whip your ass. You got to be saying, I got to be focused on mine. I can't be pep talking everyone else. I have a job to do, and this is the playoffs. And you know what, money? You got to turn it up just a little bit more. You got to turn it up and squeeze it just a little bit harder.
Yeah, and look, Devin McCourty is going to join us, and he's going to be able to give us a lot of insight on the Patriots as he's been with the team, along with his Sunday Night Football duties all season. So it's going to be great to get sort of that intel from an insider's perspective. I've watched a lot of Patriots since the Denver game. Just a ton of Drake Maye, all his third down throws, his touchdowns, his interceptions, all of his sacks. Watched a lot of this defense, and I think the other part with Becton is, the edges. I think they're going to be okay. I think of the 7 teams in the postseason, I do think this is probably you would probably rank this team 7th in edge pressures when it comes to Landry. I mean, they rotate them, so it's Landry, it's K'Lavon Chaisson, but to me, it's the interior. Christian Barmore's a load. If Milt Williams played about 35 snaps, he was out since week 12. But Milton, remember, you could argue, the MVP of that Philadelphia defense last year when they won the Super Bowl. It's why he got that $100 million contract. So if they're going to plant, Milton Williams over Becton, I want nothing to do with that. I'd rather, knowing that he's just been not right all year, he's had a ton of quick pressures allowed. To me, that's another way to maybe negate a little bit of that Milton Williams, is to have Penning out there, to have Fisk out there, to have Matlock out there at fullback. I think they're going to play big. I think you're going to see the beef line up, and that's how they're going to approach this, and hope they can extend some plays and get some wins, from Quentin downfield, from Ladd on man beaters, Keenan as well. So to me, that's just sort of the one, if as we're kind of wrapping the Denver thing, that's the one thing that I would take away is, I think I want Trevor Penning in there instead of Mackay.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to see what Harbaugh and the staff is going to do. They got some decisions. Guys been beat up, guys are coming back, but one thing we know for sure, it's the playoffs and attitudes, and you got to get your hot, and you got to be ready to rock and roll. So I'm just excited. I can't wait to get Devin on and ask him some questions about New England and what they have up their sleeves.
Well, here's some numbers. This is how good the Patriots have been this year. Offensively, they are top 10 in nearly everything. Actually, they are top 10 in everything except for one category, red zone touchdowns, 17th. Outside of that, points, 2nd, yards, 3rd, rushing, 6th, passing, 4th, yards per play, 2nd, time of possession, 6th, and they only gave it away 16 times. So It is an offense that has been good. Defensively, same. Pretty much top 10 across the board, 4th in points allowed, 8th in yards, 6th against the run, 9th against the pass, 12th in yards per play. And again, the one issue they've had is once teams get into the red zone, they can score on them. 30th. They allow 68% conversion rate in the red zone when that field shrinks. Conversely, Chargers on defense, right there with them. This is going to be a slobber knocker, as the old folks like to say. Chargers 9th in points per game, 5th in yards, 8th against the run, 5th against the pass, 10th in yards per play. They've got 19 interceptions this season. They've got 45 sacks. That's the big difference too. Is Patriots only got 35 sacks this season. They've got 10 interceptions. And the Chargers are exceptional in both the money categories, 3rd down and red zone, 5th on 3rd down in the league, allowing just 35%, 4th in the league in the red zone, allowing just 46%. That's 20% less TD conversion rate in the red zone for the Chargers defense. So offensively versus their defense, they are very stingy. I do think it is worth pointing out the schedule. Because I Bleav that was something that the Chargers were dinged for going into the postseason last year. The amount of backup quarterbacks they played. When you look at their schedule, the Patriots notched one win against a playoff team all season. One. When they split with the Bills. They beat the Bills in Buffalo. That is the only playoff team that they knocked off. Conversely, of course, the Chargers, and even if you go beyond that, the Chargers knocked the Chiefs out of the postseason, swept them, and ended their season, beat the Super Bowl champion Eagles, housed the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was a game that the Patriots lost at home. So their 3 losses, 2 of them were against 2 playoff teams, Buffalo and Pittsburgh.
Right. And so I tell you, don't think guys don't know that. And guys are looking at it. You're looking at the stats. So coaching staff knows that, and so does players. So it's just going to be interesting just to watch these 2 teams in the chess match that you're going to have with these coaches, all the plethora of knowledge that's going to be out there on the field at display. And you talked about, hey, look, you talk about New England in the red zone where they're at 60%. That is not good numbers. Red zone seem like they have been a sieve. So This is some times where you got to, as a Chargers man, get in this red zone. How are we going to get down there and make, another part I think that this game that people don't talk about, we talk about offense and defense, of course. I'd like you to dive in like the special teams. Who's the edge? Would you give it to the Chargers because of the kicker and punter, or do you think that New England comparable? Because special teams, more likely it's going to come down to winning this game, a field goal, a punt return, a big kick return. That's going to be crucial in this game.
27-32 on their field goals. They're really good when it comes to punt returns. First in the league. They average 17.3 yards per punt return. That's Marcus Jones and Chisholm that are both back there. So that's a big deal. The Chargers only average 6.5. They're 28th in the league in punt returns. Darius Davis just has not been himself. The juice, I think, with the injury has kind of evaporated from him. So 17.3, you gotta be careful now if you're J.K. Scott. But you look at J.K. and he's top 10 in gross, 47.9. So he can boot the ball. Just be very careful when it comes to your coverages. And I think a lot of that too for the Chargers isn't necessarily fair. A lot of it is early season when they were trying to figure out who their special teamers were going to be after having to completely rebuild that with a lot of rookies. And I think now you've seen Marlowe Wax settle in. Dean Leonard is back and healthy as their gunner. Delshon Phillips should have been an all-pro or should be an all-pro special teamer with his 24 special teams tackles. So that's going to be an interesting matchup there. That's a great point, Lo, that, this could be a field goal game or it could be a special teams punt return, set you up with a short field kind of game. And certainly going to have to pay attention to that. Like some of the stuff we'll get into with Devin, I do think this is a really good matchup up front for the Chargers. I think defensively, I think that Will Campbell's been solid, top 5 pick as a rookie at left tackle. He actually just came back. He's been dealing with a knee injury. He's got a brace on it, but he's got short arms. That was the one concern. And he is, because of those short arms, he's susceptible to bull rushes. And you want to talk about having a pair of guys that can bull rush and Khalil. I would just plant Khalil Mack right opposite him the whole game, man. You got issues with guys that rush with power. Here you go. Welcome to number 52. And I would just plant him there. And I do think you can make some hay there on the inside. I think Bradbury and Morgan Moses at the right tackle are just guys. So I do think Jesse, man, you know what this defense is, man. It is so much of their success is predicated on rushing 4 and getting home and clouding that picture and forcing quarterbacks into mistakes. And I do think this offensive line for the Patriots presents that advantage for the Chargers I do think they're going to be able to get pressure with 4. And I think that helps this defense out a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I think when you look at Mack and what he's been able to do, he's getting a little older, but he still commits. He brings that pressure. The guy can bull rush. He can put you right in the quarterback's lap. I see the Chargers trying to move him off a spot. We know this quarterback. He, maybe the MVP is going to be a top 2 MVP votes, and they're going to try to move him. They're going to try to move. The Chargers are going to try to move him off his spot, make him scramble to the left and, where he, leave half the field. Don't want him to go to the right because he can still throw across the field. So I think you're going to see him come after him at times, with 5, maybe bring a linebacker, but you don't have to. Like you said, you can get home with 4, but at times you just probably want to move him off his spot. But the Chargers on third down, they've been pretty solid. They've been really solid this year, top 10 team. So it's just going to be the matchup, the chess game that we're going to see between these two teams. And like you just keep alluding to, it's the trenches. You're talking about a Chargers team that can get after this offensive line and have some, make them shake them up and make them, break down in coverage and all those different things. And on the flip side, even though New England doesn't have necessarily a great guys up front, got the guy in the middle, the nose guard who came from, Philly, who's pretty tough, coming off injury.
Yeah,
but
Milton Williams.
What do you see that being a huge setback for the Chargers? Do you think the Chargers? Give me that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, look, that Barmore and Milton Williams are good, man. They're really good, and so is Tonga on the interior of that line. And we know the interior of the Chargers line with Maye and with Brosman has been pretty leaky. I think Zion's had a really good year. He's had a solid year. He's certainly earned himself another contract, I think, and they're going to try to keep him, and he made himself a lot of money. But yeah, that's the concern, and also just Milton's so good at run stuffing and getting those either zero gain or loss of yards sort of plays. Is he completely healthy? I would guess probably not. So that's, I think, what the hope is there. Barmore's he can wreck you. He can really wreck you in the middle of that line. So yeah, they're going to have to. But at the same time, it's like we've talked about this. You just can't allow the quick pressures. Right. I think Herbert's been so good and so effective. At extending plays and scrambling and throwing when under pressure. And I just think these edges, they don't really present Kayvon Chaisson, Harold Landry. They do not present that sort of problem. So Ponder, they're good. They're not great. And to me, so many other players and, Nick Bonito for the Broncos, like I said, Hines Allen for the Jags, obviously TJ Watt and Highsmith for the Steel. Like, you can go through every other team in the postseason and be like, yeah, that's a problem for these quick, for these edges to get quick, to lose quickly. So I think they can make that work. I think they're all right against this D line. The secondary is good. Christian Gonzalez, pretty darn good, man. Their nickelback Marcus Jones, pretty good. So, look, you heard me rattle off the stats. You don't have those numbers, regardless of who you play. When you're top 5 or top 10 and everything, you're good. I just think with a quarterback like Herbert, with receivers like Keenan and Ladd, they can kind of get quick wins. I think that's going to be available. And I just pulled it up. Herbert leads the league in pressures, 268. Wow. Second, Drake Maye. Maye was pressured 232 times. He took 47 sacks. Herbert took 54. So Drake is, Herbert was 3rd in sacks. Drake Maye was 4th. So, you can pressure him. And looking at all of his interceptions, I can't remember. He threw 8 of them. Of the 8, if I'm trying, I feel like at least 6 of them, maybe 5 of them, he just didn't see it. And I think I remember one he sailed, but I do think there were a healthy number. I don't want to put a number on it, but there were a healthy number of those picks where he just didn't see it. And we know there's no one better at forcing the quarterback to not see it than Jesse Minter. You think about those 4 interceptions from Jalen Hurts, the interceptions from Mahomes, that, CJ Stroud, he's really good at forcing quarterbacks to not see it.
Yeah, and Minter's going to have a game plan for this young quarterback. And, he's had a hell of a year where, he's maybe MVP. We don't know yet, but it's going to be interesting just how Minter, we talked about him every week. I mean, of course, they've had a couple bad showings and they said, oh, what's going on with Minter? But the bounce back and the way this guy has this defense flying around, the way that he puts guys in position to make plays, he just knows football. You watch it. He knows down and distance. He understands what teams are trying to do, and he puts an extra guy there. He seems to put guys in the right position to make plays. So this is going to be a chess match between him and McDaniels, the offensive coordinator. So I can't wait this Sunday night for it to get here. It's going to be a lot of great playoff games, but this game, because everyone's talking about it, just like you don't know, even though you're playing a 2 seed and 7, there's some parity and there's not this huge difference. It's not like it's not like this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or that sneaks in the playoffs or Carolina. These two teams got weapons. They got quarterbacks, they got players, and they got some studs. So it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, I think it is certainly doesn't feel like a 7v2. And look, they're separated by 3 games. The Chargers played in a division with the 1 seed, with the defending AFC champs, and a team that had won the Super Bowl, 3 of the last 5 years. So, yeah, that suggests that their 11 wins were earned. They were certainly earned. So. When I look at it, like just kind of picking through this before we get to Devin here in a second, they play a lot of 12. They're a lot like the Chargers, where you're going to see a lot of Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper sets out there. They play with a fullback, and they got 2 backs that are very different. Ramondre Stevenson is your hammer, sort of between the tackles. He's got 7 touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns this season. You're talking about 6 foot, 230 pounds. And then you got Travion Henderson, who is lightning quick, 5'10", 200 pounds, but he's got 9 touchdowns. He's got a long of 69. Stevenson's got a long of 56 on the season. Travion can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got another, what does he have here? He's got another 221 yards out of the backfield as well. So I think that's the route that Josh McDaniels is going to go, because look, is Stephon Diggs good? Yes, he's a good receiver, but he's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's got 4 touchdowns. But then when I went into his game log, I'm like, gosh, I just don't remember Stephon having a really big year. And I go into his game log and I see, all right, had 100 yards against the Jets. They're terrible. Had a huge game against Baltimore and a huge game against Buffalo. And I got 20 yards against Buffalo, 20 yards against the Giants, 20 yards against the Bengals, 38 yards against the Falcons, 14 yards against the Browns, 28 yards against the Saints, 23 yards against the Steelers. Like, that's not number one receiver to me. Like, there's so many of those games where he's got less than 30 yards receiving, and he's got a couple of these that popped, that it's not like going out there and it's like, hey, there's Nico Collins of the Texans. You better make sure you got him squared away. You're taking on, just the Denver Broncos like they did. There's Cortland Sutton. Do not let him get off this game. I just don't feel like they have that type of receiver.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to kind of get Devin's perspective in this kind of, what do they do? What is kind of their mantra? Because they're not really a team that's going to go say, I'm targeting you 12 times. You know that the Rams are going to target Puka 10 to 12 times. You know that they're going to target, these guys that they're going to target them. So I don't know if New England works in that manner, that they're going to just target a guy and say, you're the go-to guy that we have.
No, they really spread it around low. And like I said, you got Hunter is the, old friend alert, is second in targets in 87. So between those two, Diggs and Henry, you're talking about 189 targets between those two. And then third drops all the way down to 46. Kayshon Boutte is third. Mac Hollins actually, I should take that back. Mac Hollins had 65. And then, so yeah, he really spreads it around if you look at it. So again, I don't want it to come off as sounding confident. I just think it's a matchup that you can see them having the ability to find some soft spots and some weaknesses that they can take advantage of, as opposed to like, man, what are they going to do with this pass rush of the Broncos? What are they going to do with this running game of the Jags, combined with what Jacoby Myers and Brian Thomas Jr. are now bringing to this thing? Like, I feel like there were other teams that you would be, okay, can we put a Band-Aid over this and just kind of limit it? And this, I feel like there's an opportunity. You can just drop Dante Jackson on Stephon Diggs, and, I think feel pretty good about it. It's not really how they play, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel pretty good about the Chargers corners, whether it's Tarheeb or Dante or Cam, being able to take care of that part of it, and then just making sure that linebacker level with Dayon and DP or Delshawn, who I think has earned some more playing time out there these last couple of weeks that he's been filling in for Perriman. Take care of those tight ends in the middle of the field. Because like I said, you got a Hunter Henry with 768 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Wow. And that's going to be key. And that's what you talked about earlier in the show. You alluded to the guys up front, the boys in the trenches. And that's going to be big. You got to get Maye, get after him early, and don't give him time back there to sit and get comfortable. And if you can put a pass rush together, like you're talking about, get him off schedule. Now he's trying to, create different things. You're going to get you an interception. He's going to give you one. The biggest thing is Herbert can't give them more than they give you. So it's going to be a situation like you're talking about. If the front four, and you can get pressure with those four and put the pressure on him early and get him off his spot, you can shut down these receivers. But if you give him time, he can hurt you. Drake Maye, he can throw the ball. The guy can spin it. Very athletic. So you got to win in the trenches. That's what it's all about.
It is, and I'll tell you what it's all about. It's all about finding people that are good at what they do. If you are hiring, make sure you find the best people for all the different roles on your team, and you do that with ZipRecruiter. Right now, we want you to try it for free. It's a new year. It's time for you to try something out to get that business of yours started. ZipRecruiter.com/audio is where you go to try it for free. You got those hiring challenges. We want to make it easy for you. ZipRecruiter wants to make it easy for you. And again, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. They use matching technology. It works fast. It finds you top talent. You're not wasting time. You're not wasting money. Find out right away, immediately, how many job seekers in your area are qualified for the role for which you are hiring. They have an advanced resume database. Instantly unlock top candidates' contact info. It is the #1 rated hiring site based on G2. So try it for free. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Go to the exclusive web address right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. That is ZipRecruiter.com/audio. All right, Lo. Well, what a deal for me. I got 2 future Hall of Famers now to get into this thing. We got 3-time Super Bowl champ and All-Pro Lorenzo Neal, the greatest fullback of his era, and we are going to break down this matchup against the Patriots with Devin McCourty. So, Devin, I'll just kind of get started. If you can give us sort of, look, records are beautiful, right? 14-3. This team won a ton of games. People pointing to the strength of schedule. Just kind of how would you characterize what this team is? When you describe the Patriots of 2025, what kind of team are they? How did they win 14 games?
Yeah, I think they're a team that's driven by discipline. I think when you watch them overall, the key is they play as a team. I think offensively, the hardest thing about when you have to defend them is there's not a guy. You don't have to just stop Ramondre Stevenson. You got to worry about Trevion Henderson's a home run hitter. In the passing game, Drake Maye distributes the ball to everybody, 2 tight ends that they use. They have a bunch of different receivers that are going to be on the field. You're going to get a lot of Stephon Diggs, but then you're going to get Kayshon Boutte. Kyle Williams is going to be in there. Efton Chisholm, who shined in the preseason out of nowhere these last 2 games, has had a touchdown catch, another big catch on a flea flicker. So the team uses that offensively to, I think, keep you confused. I think Josh McDaniels as a play caller wants to be multiple, wants to be in different personnel groups, wants to be balanced. And then I think defensively, their team they're going to play a bunch of different coverages. They're going to blitz you some, then they're going to play some 2 high, so they're going to play some single high. They don't have great pass rush, I don't think, when you see 4-man rush. Harold Landry is a good player. Chaseon's a good player, but it's not the premier pass rushes that you see on other teams. I think they're going to try to blend their coverage and their rush together. Sometimes they're going to put more guys in coverage and force you to hold the ball and try to get a sack that way, or other times they're going to pressure you. So we used to call it spin the dial defense. They're going to keep it rolling on you, and you got to really prepare, I think, when you play the Patriots, because they're going to do a bunch of different things.
Devin, playing the game, you played a long time. I myself have played a long time, and just watching the game and watching guys play and just game moments. When you think about, back in the day when playing, you said we're playing 14-2. We're going to play the Patriots. Way better record, probably way more talent. And Patriots come out and they beat us because they're used to the moment. They've been in these games. They've been in playoffs. Chargers team at the time with Phillip and LT, the great LT, the Sean Merriman, all these great guys. It seemed like sometimes moments. How do you think this team prepared for the moment? You think playoffs, is it it's a different game, or do you think the coaching staff is going to be able to keep them calm during the storm?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge for this team, right? I think having Mike Vrabel, and I think everyone first thinks of his time in New England because he's back in New England, but I think of him going to Tennessee, and he takes a team, not great tradition and all of that. You know, they've had good seasons there, but he takes that team, and you look up in 2019, they come on the road to Foxboro in the wild card against Tom Brady, the Patriots legacy and all of that. And from talking to those guys that I knew in Tennessee, his big thing was, we're not playing against the 0-4 Patriots. We're not playing against the defending Super Bowl champion Patriots. That's not a thing. We're playing the 2019 New England Patriots team, a team that we can go in their home and we can go beat them. And I think that's been his message all year to this team. They've done things totally different than when we did it in New England, because he said, these guys don't know what it is to win. The last 2 seasons, they won 4 games in each of those seasons. We got to celebrate the wins. And you can see even the last game, they got a turnover. Some of the defenders are running off the sideline. He's pointing to the end zone saying, go celebrate, get down there with your teammates. So I think he will make sure those guys know this has nothing to do with the past. This is about you, and we got to stay in the moment and go play football.
I mean, you talked about that defense, and I think it's interesting. You know, it feels like everyone on the Patriots side is like, hey, this is the matchup we wanted. And everyone on the Chargers side is saying, this is the matchup we wanted, you know, because we know what the weakness of this team has been all year. I mean, you can't hide that Herbert's been sacked 50-plus times, that he's been hit more than anyone, that he's been pressured more than anyone. You mentioned it. You know, Harold Landry, Chason, good players, but it's not facing Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. It's not facing Travon Walker and Hines out. Like, this is sort of – so when I sort of frame this question that way, what about the interior? Because we have seen the interior of this line be a little bit leaky. Is Milton Williams healthy? Is Barmore that guy? Like, how do you suspect the Patriots are going to try to pressure Herbert? Because, you know, if you can't get pressure on him, you know, he can really carve you up.
Yeah. People got mad at me because Sunday night on our broadcast, I said, I think this is the matchup the Chargers wanted. And it was like, no, man, they rested Justin Herbert because I get it. Justin Herbert's one, but they rested a bunch of guys because I think they sat there and they said, we don't mind falling to 7 at all. We would rather our guys healthy because we think we can go in there and beat the Patriots. And I look at, for the Patriots defense, what you just said is what they're going to rely on. They're going to hope Milton Williams, Barmore, and they're going to hope Tonga's healthy, because for the most part of this year, early in the season, they were really good against the run, and they got good pass rush right up the middle. When Milton Williams got hurt and then Tonga got hurt, that defense changed dramatically because those guys are the difference makers. Milton Williams, he looked good against Miami. Now, again, Miami went to cold New England in January with nothing to play for, so, you know, it's hard to tell, but he looked healthy, and I think he'll be the key. His movement, he's a smaller guy height-wise, but he's powerful and he's quick. And I think they're going to count on those guys to cause some chaos and let everybody else clean it up. So they'll be the key in the run game and in the pass game if the Patriots have any success on defense. Because like you said, if Herbert has time, whether it's scrambling and buying time to throw or running, he could have one of those big days.
Devin, you alluded to that, hey, look, you know what the Packs are. The Patriots they're going to pass it. You don't know who they're going to throw it through. They're very, very diverse. They're going to run. They're going to try to be balanced. And that's what makes them a solid team, because they're not depending on one guy to carry them to the promised land. When you look at this Chargers team and on the defensive side of the ball, what's your biggest concern?
I think the Chargers do a heck of a job playing with 2 high safeties and forcing you to run the ball and then saying, we're going to stop the run. And now as you try to pass against these 2 high looks, they mix in, they spin coverages late. So it's hard to actually know, are they staying too high? Are they rolling to 1 high? Is Derwin James going to be on the line? Is he going to be deep? Is he going to be linebacker depth? They have, like, when you have a guy like that, it makes it hard because he's everywhere on the field, and it all starts with stopping the run. And I think for the Patriots, my time being there, I know Josh McDaniels is going to say, we got to run the ball against a 2 high look. And if they can run the ball, it makes it harder. The Chargers, you got to give up that disguise a little bit. But I look at one person, I look at Tahir Tart. I think Tart is a guy that when he's out there and he's really dominating, it's hard on offenses. He's a hard guy to block, run and pass game. And I think if he can have a big game and New England struggles, I think that can be the difference. Then a lot of those guys can be free. You can see Derwin James in and out of the line of scrimmage. You can see Henley and Perryman running full speed downhill, hitting people. So, again, I'm like you, Matt. I think this is a great matchup that I don't think a lot of people understand. They're looking at it as a 2 versus 7 seed type of thing. They think, man, the Chargers are banged up and blah, blah, blah. I think this is going to be a really good game Sunday night.
Yeah, it's. I heard. I was kind of prepping for this, and I listened to a bunch of. I listened to Curran's podcast and Bedard's. Those guys are great, and tight. It's gonna be a fight of And then Zolak, we're gonna smash him.
You can always count on Zoe.
Exactly, you can, but it does feel like it's gonna be a nut. Look, the Chargers don't really get blown out. The Patriots have been sensational this year. I suspect it's going to be one of those games that is won on the margin. So, Devin, if you can, you mentioned, you're just talking about the defense, trying to figure out this offensive line, because I went and I watched all of Drake Maye's sacks, and it's just kind of hard to get a beat on what was it breakdown and protection. He kind of walked into a handful of them. There were so many of those 47 that he's just scrambling and decides to step out of bounds and take the 1 yard loss. And so when you look at the protection, because like for me, I don't know if I see anybody that's elite on that line. And I think about, Will Campbell and those arms and whether or not Thule or Mac, those guys, they're just bull rushers. Like, is that a fair kind of assessment? Like, Will seems to have been a little bit susceptible to that style of pass rushing. And what about this unit as a whole trying to slow down, like as you talked about, Tier Tart, and really it's Owe, Khalil, Thule, Tier, and that's sort of kind of what Jesse Minter's got to work with and has really made things tough on opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think exactly what you said. The Patriots offensive line, it's a unit. I think when you watch them, it's not about Morgan Moses or Will Campbell. It's not about Jarrett Wilson, the rookie. Like, Will Campbell was out, and even when he was out, we didn't look at the Patriots offensive line and say, man, they're just getting killed at the left tackle position. Because if you just think back to even 2018, and it was Melvin Ingram, it was Bosa, like these great end pass rushers, and they're on the sideline and they're like, man, the ball's out in 2 seconds. Like, we have no time to get there, because Josh McDaniels builds the offense that way. He plays to the strength. So if it's going to be a longer pass, expect to see one of those backs offset. Expect to see Hunter Henry or Hooper in there next to Chip. Like, they're always going to try to secure the guys. And I agree with you. Drake Maye even said it this year. A good amount of those sacks is him trying to make a play. Sometimes it's, I'm looking. I get out of a lot of plays using my legs. This time I couldn't. I stepped into a sack. If I was an offensive lineman, nothing would make me angrier than the guy running out of bounds a yard behind the line of scrimmage.
Exactly.
But he's done that, and I've seen other young quarterbacks do that. But I think this offensive line, it's about a unit. And they know, hey, there's going to be times where we're going to have to help on Khalil Mack. There's times we're going to have to help on Owe. Like, they know that going in, and it's always in the game plan offense. They're going to do things that, hey, we know we're going to get this look. When we get this look, we have to counter it by doing this. And that's the fun part about these games. Jesse Minter's been amazing this year and the last few years as a defensive coordinator. We're going to see a chess match between him and Josh McDaniels of seeing who can sneak in a great blitz here, or, some kind of trick or gadget play that exploits the defense. So I think that's another hidden matchup between the two coordinators.
Devin, looking at this game, do you see this game stand under 20? First team to 22, 23 wins this game. If they keep it under 24, do you think that's the number when you're thinking about these two offenses that, maybe not explosive offenses, but that grind? Where do you see this number?
I do. I think it's that 24 to 28 range. I think it's like the Chargers defense is built on not giving up the big plays. And when you watch New England, the games where they score a lot of points, it is one of those explosive plays. It's either a deep pass. Drake Maye was one of the best this year at completing the ball, and he threw a lot of balls down the field, or it's Henderson with a breakout run, or Stevenson. So I think the Chargers do a better job than a lot of other teams of saying, we're not giving that to you. And I think New England on the other end, defensively, they're going to play that style of, hey, we know our offense is good. We might bend a little bit, but we're not going to break. You're going to have to drive the field and make third down conversions after third down conversions. And I think that's what sets up this matchup to not be, 21-17 at the end of the first half. I just don't see that. I think by the end of the game, we're looking, and there's been a few drives that work, maybe one or two explosive plays for each team. And now we're looking, that last drive gets you to maybe 27 or something, and that field goal or touchdown could win the game.
Devin, you were on the field. I was in the booth, and I'll never forget 2018, man. Coin toss, Patriots win, and they say, we'll take the ball. And DJ and I looked at each other and just went, uh-oh. This is not good. Why would the Patriots take the ball unless they know something? And sure enough, they hung in there, though. Keenan had a couple big ones, and it was kind of tight there for a quarter and a half, and then it was just gone. And I remember hearing Joey Bosa belly aching the whole way home about that ball being out immediately to your spot, to the secondary, Devin, and kind of we know, Gonzalez is as good as there is in this game. How do you think they're going to play it? We've seen Q. I think I said this to Lowe a couple weeks ago. I was like, the motto of the internet is if you don't have something mean to say, don't say anything at all. And Q has had such a good year and been that deep threat that this team is so desperately needed. Do you see Gonzalez on Q? Do you see it just kind of, we're going to play our game? Because it does feel like you can maybe pick on a couple other parts of that secondary and just stay the heck away from Christian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure because they've done it both ways. They've done it sometimes where Gonzalez has gone out there and tracked the one guy and stayed with him a good amount of the day. But they've also had days where they're fully confident, hey, we're going to leave Carlton Davis over there, and Quentin Johnston's a bigger receiver. It fits more of what Carlton Davis is. I wouldn't be surprised if they say, hey, it's playoff football. We want our best on their best. This is what he does really well. Let's get him on Quentin Johnston. Hey, we'll worry about everybody else. I could see maybe trying to keep Marcus Jones on Ladd McConkey. I think what Ladd McConkey does well, quickness, playing inside, I could see that. But New England's not a team. When I was there, we were a heavily man-to-man team. So we did a lot of, hey, Stephon Gilmore, you're going to go here, you're going to go there. They play a lot more zone, and they do different things off of that. So there might be a little bit of Gonzalez going to the same side, but it won't be as much matching, I think, as people would think with, two guys coming in, a good receiver and a good corner. I don't think that will be as much of the matchup. And I think the Chargers, Greg Roman will be able to design some things to attack where he wants to attack. I think New England, once they break it down, they're going to say, okay, when we get this coverage, Justin Herbert's good enough. See what's there. I think they're going to be able to, as long as they can protect and hold up, hey, we're going to go here. We're going to attack. Maybe they're going to try to get, if they're going to give us Quentin Johnston or Carlton Davis, they might say, hey, we like this matchup. We're going to go to it. So, and then obviously I think Amari and Hampton and how they use him in the pass game and running the ball will be a big part of the game plan as well.
In your opinion, Dev, two-part, in your opinion, first team with 100 yards, do you think the first team 100-yard rusher is going to win this game? Not rusher, but just by the run game. How big is the run game going to be for both these teams as far as yards rushing the ball?
Yeah, I do. I think that's going to be a huge part because I always think of we all watch the regular season and whatever the statistics are and whatever a team does well or doesn't do well, it just feels like when we get to playoff football, if we see one team come out and they rush for 130 yards and they give up 50 yards rushing on the other end, you walk away and you say, like, they dominated that game. Time of possession, they just kind of wore the other team down. And I think both of these teams don't have a problem doing that. And I think that's the joy in playoff football. There's teams who say, we'll adapt. There's coordinators who say, we'll adapt and we'll become that to win a game. And we know Greg Roman has no problem doing that. And Josh McDaniels, as much as having Tom Brady and doing all that game you're talking about, Matt, like that was a Sony Michel game. That was hand the ball off. Hey, the Chargers are going to play with a bunch of DBs. We're going to run the ball. So I think the run game will be a big part of this. I know in today's game, every big matchup, only thing we really like talking about are the quarterbacks and what are the quarterbacks going to do. But I do think in this game, both of these teams have no problem relying on the run game and saying, hey, we'll run the ball and let that be the reason why we win.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't even know if I have a question in here. Maybe you can just kind of build off of what I'm saying, but I'm anxious to see how Jesse Minter wants to play this because he's obviously base is essentially nickel for them. And I'm wondering if he's even going to go into a little bit of dime just to have that speed out there to make sure Henderson doesn't get that. You think about explosives in the pass game and don't let him take the top off. But when I look at it, I'm like, man, you cannot let Henderson get to that edge. So I almost wonder, as someone who's played in a lot of different defenses, in terms of just the way you want to approach an opponent, what do you see? Do you see some dime? Do you see some nickel? Or do you think they're going to have to play with sort of that heavier front, that 3 interior tackles with the 2 edges? Like, what do you suspect they should do to be as successful against this run game?
I think we'll see a good amount of nickel. And again, I go back to Derwin James. Like, he is not normal. So your nickel now turns into a base kind of where you can, like, if New England decides, hey, we're going to come out here in 12 personnel and keep 2 tight ends on the field, I wouldn't have a problem saying Derwin James, line up in there in the box and say to New England, good luck bringing Epton Chisholm down there and thinking he's going to crack block Derwin James and take away our force player. Like, I just think they feel good about that matchup. So I think you'll see some dime in there depending on how much 11 personnel New England runs. If they decide to run out of 11 with Travion Henderson, maybe you get a little bit of dime in there. But I think he'll be careful about going dime with Ramondre Stevenson in the game, just to say, let's not make it easy for you. Like, run the ball on our nickel defense, which is essentially, like you said, their base defense. But again, like, when we look across the league, Kyle Hamilton, Derwin James, Emmanuel Warrior in Seattle, even though he's a rookie, but fits the same bill. These guys are not normal. Like, they're listed as safeties, but there's so much more in these defenses, playing nickel, playing linebacker, sometimes playing on the edge, that I think Jesse Minter will be really confident in having Derwin James and letting him be the difference maker in the run game.
A little off question for me, kind of not necessarily about the game, but just about players. You look at Drake Maye, you look at what the Rams quarterback has done, and you think about a guy in Cleveland setting the pass record, rushing sacks rather. Who do you think and why MVPs? You think for the first time maybe it's going to go to defense in a long time because Maye's a young quarterback, strength of schedule? How do you see it shaking out in your opinion?
It's interesting. I think Matthew Stafford had it wrapped up in a bow. I think it was Stafford all the way. And I do think once the playoffs start and more time is in between, I think Stafford probably gets it, because I think people will then look at the season as a whole. What ends up happening is we get all into this thing, and it's like, it's Stafford, and he has a bad Monday night game, and it's like, nope, it can't be him anymore. And it's like, whoa, hold on. He has 2 bad games all year against the Falcons and against the Panthers. And I think people will say, overall, it's been an unbelievable year, and we love the way this team has looked. I think Drake Maye, the people that go with him, it's going to be about consistency. And I don't know if ever before, I don't know if you guys know, like, have we ever thought about the team's strength of schedule when we've talked about the MVP voting? I mean, it's more of a thing now with Drake Maye, I think partly because the Patriots were so bad the last 2 years. And it's like, how the heck is this guy playing at this level? The only way is because the competition is so bad. And unfortunately for Myles Garrett, it's already hard to do it on defense. And then Cleveland's so bad that I think it makes it hard. I think him finishing in the top, 3 or 5 of the MVP race will be, an award in itself. But I think ultimately the voters, I think with this time that was spent in between, that Atlanta game and another game after that, I think they probably, when they casted their votes, were like, okay, we take time, we go back through it. I think it'll be Matt Stafford.
Yeah, Sean McVay let him pad those stats against Arizona, get over 45 touchdowns. For me, it's like, hey, no, you don't get to cheat the system so you can say he had 45 touchdown passes. That's not how this works. Last one for you, Devin, and we certainly appreciate it. Who's the difference maker? Like, if this thing, let's just say, let's hypothetically play it each way. The Chargers win. What do you think the difference was? The Patriots win. What do you think the difference was?
I hate to say it because I just said all we do is talk about the quarterbacks, but it's the quarterbacks, right? It's amazing how these storylines take over and they become real, right? Justin Herbert hasn't won a playoff game, and every time we're going to think about every time he's going to be talked about, as much as he's going to ignore it and worry about the team. And it's a team like that is big. It's big on your mind. You want to get over that where you go and you win a playoff game. I remember 2018, we go and play the Chiefs. Everyone kept reminding us in our era, we had never won a playoff game on the road. Like, we thought about that the whole time going in. Like, you have to, and until you do it. And so there's going to be moments no matter what in this game where Herbert's going to have to either make the play or he doesn't make the play, and that's all we're going to talk about. And the same thing goes for Drake Maye. Hey, your season was great, but you've never been in the playoffs. No one knows how you're going to act. There's going to be other role players in between that we're going to look back and say, hey, they were a big part of the reason why they won. I think for New England, I think it would be Travion Henderson, him hitting a big run, him making a play. And I think on the other side for the Chargers, I think it'll be Derwin James, him having a big game defensively. That would be a deciding factor. But I think the big story we walk away is which one of these two quarterbacks either had a 2-minute drive to win or they failed in that 2-minute drive. And that's going to be their storyline of their 2025 season. And that's going to be what everybody talks about to enter the next season.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. Two incredible quarterbacks. Drake Maye, MVP caliber season. Reminds us a lot of Justin Herbert. There's just a lot of – he's a horse. He's a big dude. He doesn't go down easily. He can push the ball downfield. It's not necessarily looking in a mirror, but I think if you were to draw a parallel, he's in that conversation with Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, guys that are built that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make this one a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it, and we certainly appreciate you giving us all that insight, Devin. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
You're the best, bro. Good seeing you, Devin.
All right, Lo. Well, big thank you to Devin McCourty, to Lindsay, our executive producer, for putting that one together. Great insight. I mean, a solid 30 minutes of breaking it down and doing it a heck of a lot better than I could. That's for certain. Give you an idea of what the Chargers are facing. So let's just put a button on it, Lo. Kind of give us an idea of how you see this thing playing out, who's going to raise their hand and be a difference maker, and what we're going to be talking about a week from today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he talked about, hey, look, I know it's a quarterback-driven league, but he talked about other parts of this game, saying, hey, how defense can step up, and he talked about different players, alluded to Derwin James. But then when you asked him, he said, it's going to come back to Herbert and Drake Maye. What everyone plays best, that's going to be the headline. I'm in a different church, different view. I think it's going to be about these running backs, and I think Derwin James, Khalil Mack, some of those other guys that people aren't talking about, they can set this game. I know the quarterback's going to go. I don't think Herbert or neither one of these quarterbacks are going to throw over 300 yards. I don't think this is the type of game. But if you got it back and these running backs by committee get 150 yards rushing, the Chargers find a way 130, you win this game, and that'll be the game ball. If you have Derwin and these, down there in the box, and he has a sack, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble, and maybe a pick. Those are going to be to contribute to winning the game. The quarterbacks, you got to manage the game. You have to you got to make those throws when you have to. You got to make some plays when you have to. But this is not that type of game. This is not no shooter. This is a game that you say, look, if we can get 3 to 4 yards in a cloud of dust, if we can create it and we can go ahead and do that offensively, defensively, if we can go and create a new line of scrimmage, make Dre Maye, get him off squad, shut down the run. I think that the Chargers can win this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think this is like something like 20, 23, 19, 23, 24, 21. I think the first team to 21 wins this football game.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you, Lo. I'm going to agree with you on the defensive side, and I'm going to agree with Devin on Justin Herbert. I just think all season long, how did the Chargers get to 11 wins? By Justin Herbert doing incredible things. There were so many of those fourth quarter drives, game tying drives, game winning drives. And it just felt like he was able to overcome so many obstacles that were put in front of him. And I suspect it's going to be that way if the Chargers are going to get out with a win here. And then I'm with you on the defense. I got Drake Maye's game log pulled up in front of me, and I see, let's see, against Pittsburgh. What do we talked about those defensive lines, right? So against Max Crosby, sacked 4 times. Against Pittsburgh, Highsmith and TJ Watt sacked 5 times.
Wow.
Against Buffalo, sacked 4 times. Against Justin Simmons in Tennessee, sacked 4 times. Myles Garrett and the Browns, 6 sacks. Atlanta and that pass rush, 6 sacks. So to me, I think the Chargers have that type of front. I think with Thule and Khalil Mack and Odafe Oweh, they have the type of front that can sack him, with that sort of frequency. And those are game-changing plays. When you can extend a drive on third, no one has more third down sacks in the NFL this season than the Chargers. So to me, that's what I'm looking at is, the opportunity for the defense to end a drive, to force a punt, to get their offense back on the field. And then offensively, I agree with you. You got to run the ball. You got to stay on schedule. We know this is the second best team in the NFL at 3rd and 6 or less before the Denver game. So, to me, that's sort of where I'm at. I think it goes both ways. And I feel like with the limitations on the offensive line, with some of the injuries that they're dealing with on that offensive side of the ball, Amari Hampton with that ankle sort of thing, Tyler Tucker Fisk just coming back. I think it's Herbert. We need you to get into the phone booth, take off the suit and the glasses, put on the cape. That's what we're going to need in order to see the Chargers get this victory, which I absolutely think they can get. I said it last year going into the Texans game, and I meant it, and I know it didn't end well, but I feel like if this team can just win the first one, that's all they need. If they can win that first game, I really feel like it can unlock a lot of things for this team.
I agree with you. I put my money where my mouth is. Me and Maureen Brady, she went to Fresno State with me. Tom's sister, she's a great pitcher. Her daughter plays on the Olympic team, soccer team. I said, we got a little bet going. So she's got to wear powder blue, and I got to put on a Pats jersey. So let's go Chargers, bolt up. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. You understand it, Money. It's football doesn't change. Win the turnover battle. Yeah. Be able to run the ball. Get off the field. Keep them in 3rd and long. Play consistency on offense and defense. Play complementary football. The game plan's simple. It's about, can you execute it?
Exactly right. Execute, limit your mistakes, take advantage of theirs, tips, overthrows, 3rd and longs, and let's get out of there with a win. It's going to be a 5:15 kick. Thankfully, the Mother Nature is being somewhat kind to us. Looks like it's going to be mid-30s, low 40s, so not one of those 5-degree and sleet games. As right now, as we do this podcast, it can always change, but right now it looks like the weather's going to be a little bit favorable. Let's see if the Chargers get out with that win, get that first win like we talked about, and get this thing rolling to Super Bowl 60 up there in Santa Clara.
Bolt up, baby.
Bolt up. Appreciate Devin McCourty for joining us. We'll be back again in a week, hopefully talking about the Chargers taking on a Broncos team at Mile High for the right to play in the AFC Championship. Thanks, everybody.